And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Conn and the Stick. I am your host, Justin Connolly, with my co-host, Nick Smith. And it's been a couple weeks since we've done this, just a couple of things going on. I know work conflicts, and I went on vacation last week, so we've just been trying to... Yeah, we had 4th of July. It was just a couple of things that we got caught up with. We apologize again for just... the gap in between our last podcast and this one. It's just summer gets to be a little busy sometimes, as most of you know. But we're back at it. Our last podcast was the fantasy football special, so we're going to jump right back on the horse and get right back into the divisions, breaking them down. And today is the NFC South, and even when doing the other divisions, this is the one that we bragged about.
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of the other divisions. A lot of these teams are coming up, and looking at the Panthers, Saints, Falcons, Bucks, these are pretty solid teams. 3 of them made the playoffs last year. It's not every year you see 3 teams in one division make the playoffs. These guys are just all really talented teams from top to bottom. And just great quarterback play across this division. Probably the best quarterback play in any division.
Oh, absolutely. I just don't think that playing off of that, I don't think there's a single division that just has the prowess at the quarterback position that this team does. I mean, you look at it and there's I don't think there's one quarterback on this on any of these teams that's really on the hot seat.
Oh, certainly not. Drew Brees, definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. Matt Ryan's former MVP. Cam Newton's gone to a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan has too.
Former MVP as well, right?
Did he win the MVP that year?
I think he did.
He definitely had a great year. And Jameis Winston, he's a young guy. Of course, he has a lot to prove still. He has his ups and downs, but he's not going anywhere. Not that I see. He's had his issues off the field, but
yeah,
he has time.
Still a franchise guy, I think, in my opinion. Still a guy that's smart, obviously very passionate about football, and maybe he's really only had Mike Evans really to throw the ball to, although he gets an up and coming OJ Howard, and but we'll talk about the Bucs in a little bit. Where do you want to start with this?
I was going to say we start with the Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely. So, let's start with the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, we look at this roster, and offensively, it's starting to really come together for Carolina. Obviously, I think that the thing that I look at Carolina, and they're going away from a philosophy that they really had for the last couple years. And you know what? It worked for them, but I think they're really starting to get a new identity, really, and they're stepping away really from the ground and pound game and really building out more to a spread. And obviously that starts really with running back Christian McCaffrey and what he can do as just a multifaceted running back.
Yeah, having a guy like Christian McCaffrey, it opens up so many doors for an offense. He's just almost like a wide receiver. He could play wide receiver and running back. He can just do it all, and it's just a huge mismatch for any defense because if you put him in the slot, he's just going to be getting covered by a linebacker usually, maybe a safety, depending on the defensive scheme they're running, but he's just going to create mismatches all over the field. And like you said, they were known for ground and pound. They had guys like DeAngelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, and Mike Tolbert.
Don't forget Cam Newton himself.
He's still probably going to pound it in there, especially in the goal line situations. But I think just in today's NFL, it's just a more spread out game. It's dink and dunk here, find the right matchup.
And that's a question I want to actually ask you. Does this whole do you think that this affects Cam Newton's play here because of the fact that, he's moving away kind of what he's been used to the last couple of years? Obviously, you're not going to run Christian McCaffrey up the middle that often. You get a guy like they just added C.J. Anderson who almost plays that role a little bit more. But does this whole philosophy really of that's what we look at is they're going to start spreading the field out a little bit more? Does that take away from Cam Newton's running ability with the fact that maybe he's not the guy that's going to beats you with speed, but also he just runs through you, and you're not going to get a lot of quarterbacks like that. Does this affect Cam Newton's game?
I think spreading it out actually might help him, not so often with the read option part, but like if you're spreading out four receivers and you got more D backs on the field, less linebackers, less guys in the interior, if he can find a hole, and when people are pass rushing, he's gonna take it 9 times out of 10 times. So it actually might possibly help him out in the run situation. Also, this is probably a good way to keep him healthier. He's not going to probably take as many hits because everyone's not going to be inside the box, jamming it in there all the time. So I think actually for Cam Newton, it's probably better for him, probably statistically and just for health purposes. And it's going to help the Panthers out in a huge way, I think, this season.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what Cam Newton can do with this whole new offense, and I agree with you to a point. And then I'd have to, I could see Cam Newton really doing well with this system. Like you said, he can spread it out. He's got a lot of young weapons to work with, but I don't know. I just when I look at Cam Newton, I think of a ground and pound quarterback. Obviously, he can throw the ball, and but I mean, there's just a thing that there's a reason why the Panthers have been so successful under Cam Newton was the fact that what they did worked. And I'm a big guy when it comes to the fact that, don't fix what ain't broken, and what they've been able to do. And I think that Cam Newton's been able to use even Jonathan Stewart. And yes, when they had Mike Tolbert, is really, he can pull the ball and he can still do what Jonathan Stewart did. They were a ground and pound team. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just a little bit skeptical about Cam Newton in this whole spreading it out, because in the end, the guy's 6'5", over 200 some pounds. That's what he does, and that's what he does well. Not saying that Cam Newton can't make guys miss. He's got good juking ability. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I see that. In my view, when you're spreading it out, you're gonna have more DBs on the field, and the people that are gonna be hitting him are probably gonna be much smaller than him, and it's gonna be less linebacker shots he's going to be taking,
right, and
which I think could help him out.
And that's obviously that's the only quarterback I think really in the NFL that can take
a shot.
Those kind of hits is Cam Newton. But yeah, I can absolutely see it. Obviously, you want to protect your quarterback as much, but you don't want to completely take away what makes them good. And I think that they've done that, and that's the mistake that they've made with Robert Griffin in the past. And it's the same mistake they made with Colin Kaepernick in the past, was you can't tell a running quarterback to stay in the pocket. It just does not work. You have to let them do what they do best, and that's run. And 2 years ago, they told Cam Newton he had to stay in the pocket, and what happened? They went 6-10. You got to let running quarterbacks run when they can, and you just got to play around what they can do best. Quarterback is the most important position in football. You don't win. You barely ever can win championships without them. But I look at this. We look at this wide receiving core, and I see a lot of young talent, and they've really moved away. They really have built a lot of youth on this Carolina Panthers. On this wide receiving core. They've gone away from veterans like Kelvin Benjamin, and are really starting to build youth around it. Obviously, yes, you have Torrey Smith, but also, but I look at three young guys really, and Devin Funchess is a guy that had a really good season and started becoming maybe the number one guy for them. Obviously, they draft DJ Moore in the first round, a very high acclaimed wide receiver from Maryland, who everyone's expecting to be really good. And Curtis Samuel is a guy I loved coming out of the draft last year as one of my sleepers, as a guy that played running back at Ohio State, but still reminded me a little bit of like a Christian McCaffrey kind of guy, and they took him as a wide receiver. So still there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to these guys. I think that you got a guy that can beat you deep like Torrey Smith, a guy who can go up and get the ball like Devin Funchess, and guys like Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore that can make guys miss.
Yeah, it's good to have a diverse receiving core that can. Everyone has their own specific role, but like Devin Funchess, once Kelvin Benjamin left last year, he stepped up his game pretty well, and it really opened up Cam Newton's eyes to what he had at wide receiver. Having Torrey Smith, he hasn't been the guy that he was in his early years at Baltimore, but maybe a new system, new quarterback certainly help him out. And then just even looking tight end, Cam Newton has old reliable and Greg Olsen. Last year, of course, he had foot injury, really hindered his performance. He missed a lot of the season. He's also getting up there in age, but the guy showed he could do it, and he's done it well for
Yeah,
many years.
and
But see
right.
how he could stay
Yeah.
healthy.
And Greg Olson's a guy that it is old reliable and a guy that we want nothing but because he's such a great guy and he's such a great football player. We want to see success, but I think Greg Olson's at a point in his career now that they needed to start trying to replace him because he is at the back end of his career. I mean, I'd give him maybe 2-3 seasons at the most before he moves on. But they did that. I think Ian Thomas, tight end out of Indiana, who has been a proven pass catcher there, might be able to fill into a role, and it's a guy that I was thinking that might be a sleeper. I mean, he's got a lot of weapons there, and one name that just popped out to me, just not on an unrelated thing, is Rasheed Bailey. Obviously, is a guy that we played against in college. Former Delaware Valley wide receiver. I mean, that's the most impressive guy I've ever actually seen play in real life. I mean, he just went up and got the ball at all. I mean, maybe not a guy that's an NFL star, but I just wanted to point that out. It's just you never know who will make it big. And the offensive line, I mean, it has some bright points, obviously, to get Matt Khalil from the Minnesota Vikings, who's a starting left tackle in this league. Try Turner is one of the best guards, but, you lose Andrew Norwell. Ryan Khalil playing, obviously, at the center. The Khalil brothers reunited. But, I mean, I think this is an offensive line that can hold its own for Carolina and Cam Newton.
Yeah, it's a good offensive line, and I think offensive lines, especially for running quarterbacks, running quarterbacks can always help out offensive line because they can make plays with their feet. They could get out of the pocket. If there's pressure coming from one side, they could roll out one way or another. So having a running quarterback really helps complement your offensive line. So even if your offensive line isn't as strong, Cam can always try to make plays with his feet to help him out. But they got a solid group, so if Cam needs to just stick in there in the pocket, he could sling it around. So this Carolina offense actually looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty complete.
Yeah.
Not too many flaws. Cam may get erratic with his arm from time to time, but he's just one hell of a playmaker. And like you said, he's an MVP candidate almost every year. So I'm expecting big things from this offense.
Absolutely. I just think that this offense really relies on the fact that if you can get this young wide receiving core going and help out Cam Newton in the pass game, get some plays going, especially playing some tough defenses this year. Now we move to the defensive side of the ball. We start with the defensive line, and this looks pretty good. If I'm going to be honest, obviously Mario Addison, a veteran presence that's been very good for Carolina. You're getting man down with two very good defensive tackles in Conn Short, and they add Dontari Poe, who is a very good defensive tackle on his right. And obviously you got the vet Julius Peppers.
I didn't even know he was back there.
Yeah, he's
I
back.
I did not even know that.
Back with the Panthers, probably going to end his career within the next 2 years. It's good where he started. But, yeah, definitely a great unit up front.
Yeah, it's a good unit up front. And like we've said in other podcasts, when you go against great quarterbacks, best way to get in their head is have a good pass rush. And
Absolutely.
These guys could do it. You know what? It's tough to only do it with 4 guys, but you know what? When these guys are as good as they are, any little bit could help. So
I think they're not going to have I think they're going to be one of the better run defenses in this league because of the fact that you've got 2 great defensive tackles manning down the middle in Dontari Poe and Conn Short, and then we move to the linebacking core, which doesn't have a lot of holes there. Obviously, you have the best, in my opinion, the best middle linebacker in football. You have Luke Kuechly, who's just a sideline to sideline guy who's just a menace.
He's just in every single play. It doesn't matter if it's one sideline to the next. He's fast. He's so smart. He almost knows everything. He almost knows what the offense is running all the time.
You say Cam Newton. Yeah, you say Cam Newton, Superman. It's Luke Kuechly. I mean, the man actually looks like Clark Kent. It's crazy.
It does. And he's just phenomenal. If you could have one guy on your team, like he would be it. He's the perfect guy you want on your defense, especially at the middle linebacker position, because he's going to be involved in basically every single play. Doesn't matter run, pass. So he's just a defensive player of the year guy almost every year.
And talk about having like a most teams want that one veteran guy that really helps them out a lot to get this young linebacking core going. The best thing about the Panthers is they got two. Obviously, Thomas Davis is another guy that's been very good for a lot of years, and it's just been phenomenal for the Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers defense up front, their front seven's just insane. Their defense. Honestly, I think their defense may be better than their offense. Their defense has been good for many years. Of course, they had Kuechly, they had Davis. They're just all around. They're really good. Not too many complaints anywhere.
And then we moved to the secondary, and this is a unit that is the one thing I really thought that they needed to address early in this draft, and they really went heavy offense to begin with. And I mean, it's got James Bradbury, Mike Adams, Colin Jones, and Kevon Seymour and Ross Cockrell. I mean, yes, Dante Jackson's a young guy you added in the draft, but I mean, I thought this was a unit that maybe they needed to put a little bit more emphasis on. I mean, you look at who they had a couple of years ago when they had that Super Bowl run. Obviously, they had Josh Norman, they had Kirk Coleman, they
had Captain Munnerlyn still at that time.
They still have Captain Munnerlyn now, but
Yeah.
I think that's a guy that's a veteran guy that's not as good as he used to be. But I mean, it's going to be coming down to really the Panthers as if that they can defend the pass. But I mean, and you're going against Julio Jones twice a year. You're going to see Antonio Brown because they played Pittsburgh as they played the AFC North. I mean, you're playing the best receivers in football this year. If you're the Panthers secondary, you're playing Julio, you're playing Antonio Brown, you're playing Michael Thomas, you're playing AJ Green. I mean, you're gonna have a tough. I mean,
They're going against Odell too.
Going against Odell.
Man.
I mean, you're playing some tough receivers this year. So I think the Panthers' season really depends on whether they can defend the pass this year.
Yeah, just like I said before, their front seven's gonna be there. They're gonna be able to stop the run. Most teams probably aren't gonna run on them. It's since their D-backs aren't as good as their front seven. They're gonna have to rely on a pass rush, and they're just gonna have to get to the quarterback as quick as they can. Maybe makes a poor decision, tip ball up in the air. Defense has to make a play. Every team, not every team's perfect. They're gonna have their dips in some areas, but I guess this is the Panthers' one flaw on defense. I think they'll be able to survive with it. They got enough players on the defense to make it work. I just think all around this team's solid. I don't think they have much to worry about this season coming forward.
And now we're going to obviously step away from the depth chart now and go to our the season predictions. I'll start it off. I got them going 10-6. Maybe not the mark that maybe they're only losing one more game, I think, this year, but I think you have a really tough schedule. I think that, the uncertainty of whether or not Cam Newton's they're going to rely too much on the pass game, and my uncertainty with really the wide receiving core, and if this young group can really ignite, and if Devin Funchess can step up to be a number one wide receiver is really what it's going to depend on. But I mean, when you're the Carolina Panthers, I mean, 10-6 seems like a pretty good mark. Still, and it's still a shot to make the playoffs like they did last year. The fact that, but you're playing a couple of tougher teams this year. I mean, obviously you got to play the Falcons and the Saints twice. You got to play Pittsburgh. You're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to play the Eagles. You're gonna have to play Detroit, who I think is a team that's really up and coming and might have a shot to knock you out of the playoffs. So I mean, 10-6 is a mark that I've set for them. And then obviously I do my 3 games to watch for every team in Week 7 against the Eagles. Really, I said when I was talking about the Eagles, I actually have them beating Philadelphia because of the fact that I don't think Philly's really defends too well against the running quarterback. I mean, I saw last year Russell Wilson destroyed their defense because of the fact that he's just so electric, and I think they're not going to find him. I mean, Cam Newton, maybe not as nimble, I would say, is Russell Wilson, but definitely is still a huge threat to the Eagles' defense. Then I got, obviously, late in the season, they're going to play New Orleans twice in the last 3 weeks, and that's going to be big because that might just be a division. That's a division right there. Not even the last 3 games of the season, you play New Orleans twice and Atlanta. I mean, that's the division right there.
It sums it up right
It
there.
really does sum it up there. So I mean, I'm gonna go with 4, and it's those last 2 games against New Orleans and Atlanta because I think that's the division right there.
Pretty much that's what I had for my games because I'm looking at it. I'm like, at that point in the season, because I have all these teams very close records. Depending how these games fall, is going to matter who probably gets a bye, who's in the wild card, and maybe one of these teams get knocked out. I actually had Panthers going 12-4 though. I actually had them top of the division. Um, had them losing at the Eagles. That's one game I thought. I think both teams are really good. I just think the Eagles are top. They're just the most complete team. Of course, the Panthers got Kuechly, they got Cam, they got great stars, but just the Eagles just got so much going for them, and they've only gotten better. And they're Super Bowl champs, so I had to give them respect where respect is due. Also, the Steelers. Just that's another close game. Just I think the Steelers' offense is so explosive, though. Just
You're not going to find a more explosive offense.
With Bell.
Well,
and,
I'll get back to that later.
With Bell and Brown, and if Big Bang could still produce like he's been, and they just got so many guys. So yeah, I had them going 12-4. I actually had the last 3 games as the 3 games to watch, just because, like you said, that basically is going to sum up the division. Like I said, they got other good games: Steelers, Eagles, the Lions is a good game, but those last 3 games, it's basically where it's going to be for this division.
I mean, you talk about 3 teams that are close together. I mean, they all went 11-5. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I actually think they did.
I mean, it's just incredible that these 3 teams are just that evenly marked, and like it just can go either way, any which way. Although the next team that we're going to talk about really is my favorite to win the division, and it's one of my favorite teams in the NFL right now. It's the New Orleans Saints. I mean, wow. I look at this roster, and I don't think there's – I mean, besides the Eagles, this is the most complete team in the NFL, in my opinion, with just the fact that their offense looks really good and their defense just looks as good. I mean, we got to start. If you're going to start in New Orleans, you got to start with Drew Brees. New contract. It's a surefire Hall of Famer, really close to beating Peyton Manning's records. I mean,
he's close for passing yards. I think he's up there. I'm not sure about touchdown wise, but I know passing yards he's certainly close, and he's going to be coming up to it soon.
I think he might actually beat it. Obviously, Drew Brees is a living legend. You're talking about New Orleans' favorite player. You got to talk about Drew Brees, and he's got a lot to work with. Let's go real quick. Let's go to this wide receiving core before we talk about what I like to call the 2-headed monster. You talk about the 1-2 punch, but it's man down by a guy I saw in fantasy 2 years ago, and I still take him every year. It's Michael Thomas, a guy I heard about in camp, a 2nd-round pick that's just been phenomenal, filling in for a guy like Marcus Colston, who's been so good for Drew Brees over the years, and he's getting as much, if not more, production from Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, he could do it all. I don't think he's a huge guy. He's just average height, but he got great hands, runs great routes. He could just do it all. And when you have a guy like that, it just makes it so much easier for Drew Brees. Drew Brees probably top 2, 3 most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. He completes close to like 70% of his passes almost, it feels like. And it just so comfortable for a quarterback to have a weapon such as him. And he also has Ted Ginn Jr. back, and he's just a guy who can stretch the field, and it just opens up a lot of things for this offense. So those 2 guys alone are going to help them out, and of course, like you said, the 2-headed monster in the backfield certainly.
Yeah,
helping them out as well.
I mean, one guy that actually stands out to me that might be a dark horse really with this Saints team is Cameron Meredith from they just got him from Chicago. And Cameron Meredith was a guy that he tore his ACL before anybody can really see what he was capable of. But I was just hearing nothing but good things from Bears camp. The that this guy was just exploding off the scene. He was going to be the Bears' number one wide receiver because of the fact that they weren't really sure what was going on with Kevin White. They just lost Alshon Jeffrey, and it was unfortunate that he tore his ACL before we could really see what he was capable of. But I would watch Cameron Meredith, because if he shows that much production during training camp again and stays healthy, might be big. And another guy, Traquan Smith, who is the University of Central Florida, a rookie that I heard a lot of great things about too. So that adds a lot more firepower to the Saints. And now, like you said before, we go to the two-headed monster. Well, I like to call him, and it's the 1-2 punch of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. Obviously, you're not going to have Mark Ingram for the first 4 games because of substance abuse. The substance abuse policy, and that's disappointing for me because as a huge Alabama fan, I literally started liking Alabama football because of Mark Ingram, and he's been nothing but a classy guy. He's never really gotten in trouble. He's been nothing but a great running back, and he had a slow start to his career, but really picked it up these last 2 years, which was amazing to see from a guy that loves Mark Ingram like I do. And but are they going to miss him a lot these first 4 games? I don't think so.
They'll miss him a bit, but
they'll miss him a bit
right.
because it opens them up. But Alvin Kamara, I mean, wow, what a guy! what a fun guy to watch on Sundays.
He's just unbelievable. A guy I didn't know much about last year and just came out of the blue and I just know fantasy-wise, he was dropping 20 points week in and week out. Dude could catch the ball. He's a great runner. He could do it all, and he's just really fun to watch. And when you have a guy like that in the backfield, it just makes it, as a fan, it just makes it so exciting to watch your team play. When you got a Hall of Fame quarterback, you got a ground and pound guy, Mark Ingram, running ball, and then Alvin Kamara, who could just highlight play after highlight play. So
and
this offense.
And the funny thing is that you really just don't know what these GMs are thinking when it comes to that. It's like I knew about Alvin Kamara, and you know what the thing was is I watched this highlight tape and I said, "Wow, this could be one of the best backs in this draft class." But the thing is that he didn't have a lot to show for it because he didn't get as many carries as other guys in college did. He was splitting carries at the University of Tennessee, so no one really knew what he was really capable of. And he had an amazing combine, and that put him on the scene. But I remember the Saints taking him with the 3rd round pick, and I was like, why would you do that? You have Mark Ingram, you have Adrian Peterson. Why do you need a 3? Like I think that really when I think of running backs, it's really a 2 running back rotation. But I mean, obviously teams like the Eagles have found a way to do work with 3, which is kind of becoming the new scheme here. It's just all this versatility in the back. But obviously there was a reason why Sean Payton and the Saints took Alvin Kamara, and it showed last year.
Just even looking back at the Saints draft last year, they drafted Rookie of the Year offense and Rookie of the Year defense.
Oh yeah.
They know what they're doing up there. So it's great. Sean Payton, them. You know what? Maybe you didn't need that spot, but you see a guy and you think this guy could be something special. You can't, in my opinion, you can't pass on something like that. Even though you're good in that spot, if you could get someone that's really that good, especially in a position of running back, because people get hurt a lot. Adrian Peterson was old at the time. You just never know what you're going to get in those spots. So if you could get someone really young who you think is going to have a lot of potential, it's a good job for them pulling the trigger on.
Absolutely, and obviously just an offensive line that complements them well. Obviously, it's been really good. They got Max Unger really a couple of years ago from that Jimmy Graham trade, and I think they stole that trade because of the fact that Jimmy Graham
did nothing in Seattle.
Upsetting to see, but I mean, Andres Pete's been really good for them. Larry Warford they got from Detroit, and Ryan Ramczyk, who is my number 1 tackle last year. They took him with the 31st pick. And they stole Ryan Ramczyk from another team that needed him, and it's just an offensive line that complements them well. The only thing that I have a problem with when it comes to the Saints is the tight end position. I feel like if they had a great tight end. I was kind of hoping for that Jimmy Graham reunion in New Orleans because that would have just made them the best offense in football. But I mean, you're working with Josh Hill, who's been okay. I mean, Benjamin Watson they get from Baltimore, he's been average for a lot of years, but nothing really good. Michael, I can't even say that last name. Humanowani, who was a tight end for the Patriots. But I mean, I wish this unit was better because then I would say that this is the most complete offense in football.
Yeah, it is the one part of their offense that's lacking a bit. Benjamin Watson, like you said, he's a solid guy. Like he's not the worst tight end in the league, but like he's not like in your top tier of guys. But yeah, if they could have got someone like getting Jimmy Graham back, this offense just would have been. It's already unbelievable. Just thinking Jimmy Graham on it though, it's actually insane to think what kind of numbers Drew Brees would have put up with this team.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, now we move to the defensive side, which you talk about a great offense, and you know what? The defense looks pretty good to me as well. We talk about the starting four on the D line. Obviously, Sheldon Rankins is a young guy that's been really good. The veteran Cameron Jordan, who's been great for New Orleans for a lot of years, and then they trade up for Marcus Davenport, and that was really interesting because. Obviously, defensive end and generating a pass rush is something that they need to do a little bit more, but they went all the way up, and I was not expecting them to take Marcus Davenport at that point. But that's a guy that's a freak of nature when it comes to physicalities, dominated the lower end of Division I FBS football, and is ready just to really step in there in New Orleans. So hopefully that I think a guy like that can really be the catalyst of generating some help on the other side of Cameron Jordan.
Yeah, like they're going to be going against Cam Newton, and you know what? He's a huge guy, and you're going to need great defensive linemen to bring a guy like him down. So, you know, if you think this guy's going to be great and going to be special, you know what? You got to know what your team's going against each and every year. You're going guys against Cam Newton, you're going against Matt Ryan, and you got to get after these guys. And this is the way the NFL is now. It's a passing league. It's not anymore let's run the ball 30, 35 times anymore. These guys they're throwing the ball 50 times. So you gotta find a way to get in these guys' head, and usually it comes to that defensive end, outside linebacker position, and getting a pass rush, and that's the best way to win. And like we said, even with the Eagles, that's why the Eagles are Super Bowl champs, because
absolutely
one sack, one forced fumble, and the whole game
changes the
so
complexion of it.
Pass rush it's pass rushing and quarterbacks are the two most important things probably right now in the NFL.
Absolutely, and then we go to this linebacking core, which was good for them last year. Alex Anzalone comes back. I think he got injured halfway through the season. Your guy, Demario Davis, stepping in there for a role for the Saints, manning down the middle. Maybe with Manti Te'o roaming the middle, rotating in there, and then AJ Klein, when they got from Carolina, a good unit. But, I mean, I look at this secondary, and it looks really good. Ken Crawley was a guy that stepped up last year. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore was Defensive Rookie of the Year, has really filled in that great role. I mean, saying that, you know, that was a top 5 pick, in my opinion. They took him at 10 and was a steal. And he proved why he should have been taken in that top 5. And P.J. Williams was a great nickel last year. I mean, we go to the safeties, and Von Bell, obviously they lose they lost Kenny Vaccaro, but they gained Von Bell, and they gained Kirk Coleman, who was a very good safety when he was playing for Carolina. And I mean, the name that jumps out really is just Marcus Williams because of the fact that he was a rookie. He was the one that let Stephon Diggs go. Yeah. A rookie mistake, but Marcus Williams is a good safety. He's got good instinct. He just one bad mistake leads to one of the greatest finishes in NFL history. And something that made all our jaws drop on that night.
That game was insane. For a guy like him, just after coming back, something like that, because he has talent, he's a good player. You can't let like something like that get in your head, because you're gonna make mistakes from time to time. And yeah, it was a huge thing because it's like Miracle Minnesota, whatever they call it. You got to do your own thing. You know you got the talent. You just got to stay prepared, not let that get to you too much. But going forward, I think you'll be fine. I know it's happened in the past. Some guys one thing goes wrong, they're known for it, and it kind of eats them up. But he's a young guy. He did well last year, I think. I think this secondary and all will just be fine.
It'll be great. Going to the records, maybe I'm overshooting it a little bit, but I got 13-3. I mean, I love what I see from this Saints team. I think this is a Super Bowl caliber team. It's a team that was right there, and I think maybe they would have given Philly a run for their money a little bit more than Minnesota did. But I mean, I love what I see here. I love just the way that this roster looks, and it's just I think this might be a Super Bowl year for the Saints if everything can come together. They can survive those first 4 games, which I don't think is going to be too bad. I mean, without Mark Ingram, Tampa Bay to open up, then Cleveland, then at Atlanta and at New York to play the Giants. Yeah. I mean, I got them going 3-1 in that time, but 13-3. I mean, I only have them losing to Atlanta in Week 3, Minnesota in Week 8, and Carolina in Week 15. But, I mean, my 3 games to watch out is really we got an instant classic last year with Week 9 versus the Rams. It's a really good game. I'm pretty sure. I think the Saints came away with a win there on the road in L.A., but I'm not too sure about that. I'll have to check that later. But definitely a game to watch with just so much star power on each side of the ball. It's going to be a game to watch, especially a high-powered Saints offense against this newly just gigantic, monstrous Rams defense with so much star power. Obviously, if you're thinking about it, you got to go Week 8 at Minnesota, going back to where you were that close to facing the Eagles to just come up one missed tackle short. We were just talking about, but I'm really looking forward to that Week 8 game at Minnesota, a rematch from that NFC divisional match. And then Week 16 against Pittsburgh, because I think that these 2 teams could be fighting for a number 1 seed in the AFC and the NFC. So I think that that's actually something to look at, because I think that both these teams at that point could be fighting for a number 1 seed. So no team's going to give, and just Drew Brees versus Big Ben, it sounds pretty appealing to me.
Oh, no, it certainly sounds appealing. I actually have the Saints with the same record as the Panthers. I have them going 12-4 as well. So I actually have them going 1-1 against each other as well. So tiebreaker-wise, how would that conference play, or is it division play?
I think it is conference. I think it's division play first, and then if they have the same division record, it goes to conference.
Yeah, not sure how I have conference record-wise, but yeah, I had them both going 12-4. They do play some pretty good teams, like I said, Vikings, Rams, play the Eagles, Falcons, Steelers, but looking forward to the Eagles game because, these probably, the Panthers, and the Eagles probably, in my eyes, the 3 best teams in this conference. So it'll be a good team to see how the Saints measure up against the former Super Bowl champions. Like you said, at Vikings as well. Just when something like that happens, like what happened at the end of that game, Minnesota Miracle, I think it adds a little bit of a rivalry to it. Like, there's that little extra, like, you go into that game and be like, we're going to pay them back this time.
A sour taste.
Yeah, so I feel like that game, it could maybe get a little chippy, which, as a fan, you got to enjoy. You don't want to see anything too crazy, but seeing 2 teams that really gave it everything they had in the playoffs, just going back at it in the regular season, should be a joy to watch. And like we said before, that last week of the season, that's probably the division right there, depending on who wins. Because I have them both going 12-4, but you know what? If one game flips the other way, you're division winner, and you're probably getting a bye. So
it's really going to come down to
every single game on this schedule for this team's going to be important. Not because like they play a great team every week. It's just because the other teams in the division are that good, and they're going to be forced to keep up. So, a 12-4 season, and it's, of course, a playoff spot with that, but who knows if they're even winning the division at 12-4. I would have to check conference records.
Yeah, I mean,
don't have time for that.
It's just, well, I mean, it's just one of those things we got to watch again for the season. But, I mean, the Saints, That's one of my favorites going into next year with just what they've been able to do and how they've been able to build themselves really within the draft these last few years. Let's move not so far away from New Orleans. Let's go to Atlanta. Uh, you look at the Atlanta Falcons, and it's a unit that's, it was a little bit questionable last year, and there were moments where I was like, what is going on with the Atlanta Falcons? They just didn't look like the same team that went to the Super Bowl a year previous. It looks a little bit better, obviously, this year, but I think my big question mark really comes from, are you going to get the same Julio Jones that you got 2 years ago? Or are you going to get the Julio Jones that you got last year, which was shaky at points? And he's just been very strange around this Falcons organization within these last 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been seeing a lot lately that like he's just not happy. He wants out. Like I don't know what to believe and what not. But even in the last few weeks or so, I've been seeing things. Is Julio out of Atlanta? So I don't know 100% what's going on there. But I don't know. It's certainly something that we should look into and keep our eyes on because who knows, anything's possible. Maybe a trade or something. But when you got someone that talented, you don't want to let go of someone like that.
Absolutely not. But it all starts with this wide receiving core, which has been very good. Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu has been very good for the Falcons since leaving Cincinnati. And then they add a guy that I really like, in Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver out of Alabama, who I wasn't really thrilled on as much watching him in Alabama as I was as guys like Amari Cooper. But Calvin Ridley also didn't have the quarterback play that Amari Cooper had while he was there. So maybe with a quarterback like Matt Ryan, he can really shine through and be worth that late first round pick that almost was a little bit like low. He was supposed to be really in the mid. He really got taken late by the Falcons. I was shocked that he was still on the board and that the Falcons took him. But that just adds you fill that hole that you had with Taylor Gabriel, who's your big slot guy. But I'm not too worried with if Julio can just put aside whatever's going on. You have a really good wide receiving core here.
Oh yeah, no, you do have a really great wide receiving core because Julio, when he's on his game, he's top 3 NFL. In my opinion, and Mohamed Sanu, he's been a solid guy. He did all right in Cincinnati. He's been doing well here. I actually love with Mohamed Sanu. Sometimes they throw him at quarterback. He's thrown a few touchdowns.
9 for 9. Yeah. He's got like 3 or 4 touchdowns. He has like a perfect
passer rating or something.
He's got a perfect passer rating because he has not thrown an incompletion in the NFL yet.
It's
9 times.
It's something that teams have to look out for.
Absolutely.
It's just that little extra thing that you
have to prepare. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes, I think. 1 to AJ Green, 1 to Julio Jones, and 1 to Andy Dalton, believe it or not.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm a huge fan of Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
And like you said, this new slot receiver, you know what? It's what they need, a slot guy, and you're high on him. You know what? It could also help them out when you have 2 established guys on the outside. It could maybe make it easier from them on the inside, and it'll open them up a bit. And having a quarterback like Matt Ryan, former MVP, it's only going to help this guy in his early part of his career.
Right. Obviously, and then we don't have to say too much about Matt Ryan. Obviously, the MVP of the Falcons. He does a lot of good. He was a little bit shaky last year, but I'm expecting Matt Ryan to do a little bit better. Maybe not as good as he did 2 years ago, but expect him to have a very good year, especially with adding a young guy like Calvin Ridley to help him out, who is already, I think he's better than Taylor Gabriel was. But, you talk about the unsung heroes of the Atlanta Falcons offense. Obviously, think about Matt Ryan, you think about Julio Jones, but the 1-2 punch, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, really puts defenses in a bind.
Yeah, they are the definition of like almost like a 50-50 backfield. I feel like they both get their fair share of carries. They're both phenomenal. Both could catch the ball. Both could do it all, run inside, outside. It just two great guys to have in the back. And it's like we said, because running backs is just one of those spots, people get hurt. And you know what? If one of them does get hurt, you got another guy that can do the job equally as well.
Right, and you talk about two guys that have just similar, like you just said, have similar game styles. It's not like you know what, oh, you're getting a ground and pound guy here, but you're also getting a beat you on the edge guy here. Or you're not separating the two. Both of these guys can beat you the same way that the other guy can. Devontae Freeman, he's a speed runner, can catch the ball out of the backfield, and Tevin Coleman's the same way. I mean, you talk about two guys that really complement each other well. It's Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. I mean, I love that backfield combination. It's just really good. I even think Tevin Coleman can start at running back for a couple teams.
Oh, definitely. League. No, without a doubt. He's definitely a starter on a lot of other teams. It's just teams in the NFL now, they want two good guys. And you know what? It doesn't – them in Atlanta, them and the Saints have one of the best duos in the league, and that's why these teams are as good as they are.
Absolutely. Offensive line, really, we go with we're looking at Jake Matthews, Andy Levitre, Alex Mack, who's one of the better centers in the league, Brendan Fusco, and Ryan Schrader. All good guys, can really protect Matt Ryan this year. I mean, my question mark is really with Austin Hooper. I think he's just such a hit or miss guy. I'm not sold on Austin Hooper the way other people are. I mean, I thought he had 1, 2, 3 really explosive games, and then I just didn't see enough from him last year.
Yeah, he had like one game where he had like 3 catches for like 140 yards. He had like a 90-yard touchdown catch or something like that. But he didn't really do as much last year. And with Atlanta, they did have Tony Gonzalez at the end of his career, which helped out Matt Ryan. But tight end, I just feel like it's just one of those positions you need someone capable because you know what, they're very important in goal line situations, third down situations. It's just a quarterback safety blanket for most teams. Like the really good teams in the league, like the Patriots, they got Gronk, Eagles, they got Zach Ertz. You know what? The really good teams in the league have a really good tight end. They just because they do everything. They block, they catch. They're just a key part of the offense. So having someone Austin Hooper could hurt them a little bit offensively. Hopefully he could turn it up a little bit this year, but we'll see how he progresses.
Absolutely. Now we go to the defensive side of the ball, and it's a little bit. Well, never mind. I thought we were looking at really. I thought we were looking at a 3-4 defense, but it doesn't look like. I think they do run a 4-3, but I mean, you got a couple of guys. I mean, I don't see the really what they used to have at defensive line. Yes, you have Vic Beasley, who's a very good edge rusher in his right. Tack McKinley's coming, had a very good rookie season. I mean, you're a little bit short up, obviously, up the middle. Jack Crawford and Grady Jarrett, they're not Dontari Poe. You're going to miss that element to your game last year. But I think the linebacking core, I mean, especially Deion Jones, who I think has been very good for the Falcons, is a guy that can really step in there and help them out with the run defense. But I think that's going to really be the weakness really with the Falcons this year is I don't know how really they're going to do so well against the run because I just don't see a lot up the middle besides really Deion Jones.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a big weakness for them just because, like we said with the other teams, they're going against Kamara, Ingram. They're going to have to tackle Cam. It's not going to be easy, yeah. And Christian McCaffrey and
a guy that I like coming up next, Ronald Jones, but I'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them, especially when it comes to 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. You know Cam Newton's probably going to run shotgun and do power up the middle, and he's going to fall forward, and no way he's going to get those few yards. So it's going to be tough to get off the field in those short situations. So it's just going to be something they're going to have to deal with, and maybe game planning situations can help them out a bit, but it's certainly a weakness compared to the other teams that we've already covered.
Absolutely. And I mean, we look at the secondary, and that may make up for the fact that, Keon O'Neal is a guy that I think that can come down and really help with the run game. Ricardo Allen is another great safety. You have Robert Alford. You have Desmond Trufant, Justin Bethel. But I think that you're going to get a little bit better off the. And I see I see a name that is actually really good that I didn't know that he signed there, and that's Ron Parker. Ron Parker was a great safety, in my opinion, with the Kansas City Chiefs. He gets signed by Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, wow. I think Ricardo Allen's job might be in jeopardy because I love what Ron Parker brings to the table. So, I mean, we're looking at a actually pretty good secondary when it comes to the Falcons. And that's really going to make up for the fact that this is such a pass-heavy
league and division.
And you're going to play a lot of pass-heavy teams, so I think that's really going to help. So as we go to the records here, we'll start with you. What do you got?
I have the Falcons going 10-6. Two games below Saints and Panthers. They're a good team. They're not as good as the two top teams, but they're certainly a playoff caliber team at 10-6 in the NFC. It's going to be close because, like you said, there's many good. This is probably the better conference of the two, in my opinion. So, 10-6. Looking at the games, Packers. That's going to be actually a really good game towards the end of the season. Matt Ryan versus Aaron Rodgers. You know what? Just two MVP quarterbacks going at it. You know what? It's always going to be fun to watch. Also, towards the end of the season as well. So, it's going to be coming crunch time. Teams are going to be making playoffs. Maybe make a few desperate moves here or there. You never know. So, that's certainly a game to look out for. Actually start off the season against the Eagles as well. That should be. Oh yeah, that's opening game. Thursday night.
Thursday night opening game in Philly.
It's you know what? If you want to start off the season, start off against the Super Bowl champs. Maybe you could catch them sleeping a bit. You know, you never know. Maybe
Philly's gonna be riled up after that.
They're certainly gonna be riled up for sure, especially with the Eagles being home. I have the Eagles winning that game, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta could surprise them because Atlanta's a good team in their own. And when you come into that first game of the season, maybe you're a little bit rusty. Maybe you're not where you should be. Who knows the situation with Carson Wentz as well?
You never know. I mean, look at what happened last year when the Chiefs came in and Super Bowl against the Patriots coming off a Super Bowl, and Kansas City just looked like a team that looked like a playoff team. I mean, yeah, that's where it was the Kareem Hunt show, really, week one. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons could. I think I've got them losing too, but I think that they could definitely come up with a win.
Yeah, actually, I was just taking a quick look at their schedule as well. Their first 3 weeks of the season,
tough games.
They could possibly go 0-3.
They could.
I have them going 1-2, but like that's gonna be definitely their first 5 games. Oh, they play Steelers week 5.
Week 5 in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field.
They could possibly be 1-4 to start the season, but
I don't think they'll lose. Look at Cincinnati.
I was gonna say they're gonna beat Cincinnati, but like I'm just saying that's certainly gonna be a tough start of the season. Yeah, but I have them going 10-6. I think they'll be good enough for a 6th seed in the wild card. Maybe 5. It just depends on how the other teams do. But Falcons are a good team. Not the best team in the division, but they're certainly a good team in their own right. So.
Absolutely. I do you one game better. I've actually got them going 11-5. I think that this Falcons team, amidst all this Julio drama, I think he's going to come up. He's going to show up to play, and I think this is going to be a better team than they actually were last year. I think the defense is going to start coming together. They just got to fix the run game up the middle. Might be a little bit weaker, but I think with what everyone's doing in their division now, with just trying to get to the edge, obviously Kamara, Christian McCaffrey might suit them a little bit better this year. And obviously, yes, 3 games. Philly week 1 is just, we talked about that already. Was one of my games. Green Bay was a game I circled because I just love that matchup between Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. I think it should be a shootout. And then, I'm going to go with week 7 against the Giants. That piques me as an interesting game because I talk about this whole them not being able to defend the run up the middle. They got to play Saquon Barkley before a bye week, and depending on how they start this season, that might be a dagger game. Like if the Falcons, like you said, go 1-4 to start the season. They play Week 6 against Tampa Bay, but then they play Week 7 against the Giants, and they lose. They're in trouble.
It'd be 2-5 right there. Yeah, it's
just playing off the fact that they could potentially go 1-4 depending on what happens. I mean, that could be a dagger game right there. You start 2-5. Obviously, you have a little bit easier off the bye week at Washington, at Cleveland, playing Dallas, and then you go back to the tough games in New Orleans, Baltimore, Green Bay. I mean, that might be a dagger game, honestly.
Oh no, certainly.
If they could lose to the Giants, and I believe that's a primetime game as well.
With 5 losses and that early in the season, it's going to be tough to catch the Saints and Panthers, especially, like you said, they still got to play Green Bay. They got to play the Panthers again. They still got to play the Saints. And the Ravens are a good team in their own, too. So, yeah, no, they got a tough schedule. That's why I had them going 10-6. I just felt there were some games there they could lose, and they're not as good as the 2 teams we already discussed. So I felt like there was maybe a few leeway games that I didn't give them the benefit of the doubt. So, but third place, 10-6. It's weird saying third place and you're 10-6.
It really is. I mean, you're just not going to get that in any other division.
In the AFC, you're going 10-6. You're probably winning the division unless it's the East, because the Patriots are going to probably win 13 games like they do every year, but. Yeah, I guess now moving forward, we go to the Bucs.
And this is a team that I feel so sorry for because of the fact that I think this is a talented team, and I think that they can compete in a lot of other divisions. But your division is just so stacked that it's going to be really tough for them to really make themselves a playoff team. But, I mean, looking at this roster, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, obviously, we talked about Jameis Winston. He's going to be suspended a few games at the beginning of the season, so we're going to see Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, to open up the season, which is it's going to hurt him because I think that you could have done a lot with Jameis Winston, but this is but, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick won. I think he won a few games. I think he beat the Jets, and I think he beat the Dolphins. But, I mean, as much as that's not saying something coming from us, but I know he beat the Dolphins. I think he beat the Jets, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I think, he did. Yeah, he definitely did.
But, yeah, I mean, depending on what's going on, I think that's a tough start to the season, and then it's just not going to get – I mean – regardless, I think that they're going to have a tough start to the season anyway.
Yeah, they play 3 great teams right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. New Orleans, Philly, Pittsburgh. Oh, Tampa Bay, I feel so bad. But let's start with this. I mean, we started with the quarterback. Let's actually go to the wide receiving core next. And obviously, it's man down by a big-bodied receiver like Mike Evans, who just made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Mike Evans, he's a great talent. Huge guy, like you said, and it's great to have someone like him in the red zone, just someone who can lob the ball up in the air and he's going to go make a play. And then opposite side of him, Deshaun Jackson used to be, I know he's a little bit older now, but he's still one of the fastest guys in the league, stretched the field. Another guy really explosive. So you got 2 guys on the edge. Jameis Winston, hopefully, he had these guys last year. Maybe he gets a little bit more chemistry with Deshaun Jackson, could help him out a bit. He has a good tight end, O.J. Howard.
And Cameron Brate. I like that 2 tight end.
Cameron Brate actually did. He was solid.
He's got a great 2 tight end set here.
Yeah, many good teams do have 2 solid tight ends. It's one position you could never have enough of. Same with running backs. So hopefully Jameis Winston, once he comes back from suspension, he could get a little bit of mojo with these guys, and maybe they could catch a roll, because they do got good guys on their team. It's just they got a really tough schedule ahead of them.
Yes, really absolutely. It's not easy with the fact that you got to play those teams, but I think the running game gets better this year. Obviously, you don't have Doug Martin, and you really struggle to try and find a guy like Doug Martin. I mean, you have Charles Sims. He hasn't really panned out. Quiz Rogers is getting old, but bam, this is the guy I was talking about just before I said I'll get back to him. Ronald Jones, one of my favorite running backs in this draft class because of the fact that he can beat you just a number of ways. as a lot of other guys coming in here. Obviously, not the talent that Saquon Barkley is, but I said that while I was doing my draft class. I said, there's Saquon Barkley, and there's the rest of those guys. But Ronald Jones, I actually like him better than Darius Geis. I like him better than Kerryon Johnson, a couple other guys that I raved about. But I love what Ronald Jones did at the University of Southern California. He can run through you. He can run around you. He can break tackles. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. The Tampa Bay is going to realize real soon what they got with Ronald Jones, because I'm telling you, and you're hearing it from me, he's going to do good. I think he's really, as long as this offensive line can give him a little bit of time, I really like Ronald Jones.
Yeah, having a complete back, it opens up so much. It's almost like with Le'Veon Bell, you could use him all 3 downs, catch, he can run. It just you want to have 2 solid running backs, but you know what? When you got a guy that could do it all, you know what? Sometimes you give him a little extra, give him a few extra plays. So hopefully his rookie year he could show what he got. He could burst out. We'll see when the season comes, but I hope to see good things from this guy.
And now we go to it, and going from the offense to the defense, and this was one of the worst defenses in the league last year. I'm pretty sure they were last in pass rush. They were last in yards given up in the pass. And I mean, as much as the pass defense hasn't seen a lot of changes. I mean, yes, you had a big-bodied corner in Carlton Davis that I think is really might take over that starting spot. But, I mean, Brent Grimes is getting up there in age. Vernon Hargreaves, he's good, but I haven't seen enough from Vernon Hargreaves to really say he's that level of talent. And then Keith Tandy and Chris Conti are good. They're okay. Justin Evans might he's a young guy that will step into a role. But you're talking about the one thing that was just going through everyone's mind last year when it came to the Bucs: pass rush. Boom. What did they do this offseason? They had Vinny Curry from Philly. They trade for Jason Pierre-Paul. They still have Gerald McCoy, and they got Vita Vea, which was a monster defensive tackle that I was actually hoping the Dolphins were going to take, but I'm not going to complain with Minka Fitzpatrick at all. That's my guy from Bama, but Vita Vea is a monster defense. So you talk about adding a pass rush, I think they did that.
Oh yeah, like we said before, you know what? In this league, you need a pass rush because D-backs aren't going to stick with these receivers. They're too talented. They're too fast. So the best way to stop offenses is just bringing the quarterback to the ground and causing havoc. You know what? And Tampa Bay saw the issue they had. They addressed it over the offseason. And that's what successful organizations do. They address their issues. They try to fix them. Like, not everything happens overnight. Sometimes it takes years. But you know what? They made moves quickly. You know what? And this is going to help them out, especially in the defensive end. Because, like you said, last year they were poor. They won't be great defense. But you know what? It's still a step in the right direction. And it's certainly a great improvement.
Right. And I mean, the secondary isn't good enough for them to really I guess to make all those plays, because you're going to be covering guys all the time. I mean, you're going to have to cover guys for a long period of time because you can't generate a pass rush, and they can't get coverage sacks because the defensive line wasn't good enough for them to even get coverage sacks, whether they were defending them well or not. So I think that what they did on the defensive line by adding Jason Pierre-Paul, by adding Vinny Curry, you still have Gerald McCoy, who's one of the best defensive tackles in football. And you go ahead and grab a guy like Vita Vea with your first-round pick. It's really a good step, and like you said, a good step in the direction for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization and what they could do defensively, because we all know you're playing 3 explosive offenses and twice. So you got to do something. You really do. Looking at this Tampa Bay Bucs schedule, it is hard. It really is. It's hard, and that's why I have them going 4-12, because I could see them maybe winning 2 more games than I actually have them winning. But I mean, I just these first 4 weeks I have them going 0-5 to start the season before they beat Cleveland, because of the fact that I have they got to play at New Orleans to open up the season. Then they travel to Philly. or no, they have Philly travel to them, but it's a tough
still,
team.
yeah.
They got to play Pittsburgh then, and then they got to travel to Chicago, who I raved about as my most improved last place team in the NFL. I mean, it's just tough. I mean, you're coming off a bye week, you think you come off something, but you got to go travel to the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. It's just the schedule does not reflect, and the record does not reflect how good this Tampa Bay team is, because they're just stuck playing a bunch of great teams.
Yeah, they just have like 7 or 8 games where they're just playing powerhouse playoff teams that could possibly get a bye in the first round, depending how games fall. It's just really tough for them. Like even when I was giving them wins, I was like, damn, that's still gonna be a really tough game for them to win. Because I was just looking at the games, like I actually had them. I didn't want to put them 3-13 just because I felt like I was just being mean to them because they are a solid team. So I actually gave them a win against the Niners just because I couldn't really.
I did not give them a win against the Niners, but I actually gave them a stunning win in Week 13 against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, you see that I did not do. That's for sure. No, it's just they got a tough game. Like Giants, playing the Giants, that's a winnable game, but they're playing at MetLife, so you know what? I felt like the Giants probably had the edge in that one. I think they could beat the Redskins. That was a game I gave them. They could definitely beat the Browns. The Browns have certainly improved, but you know what? I think the Bucs are good enough to hold them off. Another game I was looking at, I thought maybe they could beat the Cowboys as well, but you know what? The Cowboys are home. You know what?
I couldn't give them one. I couldn't give them that one either.
Yeah, I gave the Cowboys the edge on that one. So there's just.
I gave them Washington.
I did give them.
I gave them Cincinnati.
Actually, I did not give them Cincinnati. I think I gave Cincinnati the win on that game.
But yeah, I mean, it's just going to be tough for Tampa Bay to really compete with a lot of these top level teams. But let me give you my 3 games. Obviously, my first game I'm going to go Week 11 at the Giants. Obviously, for the Phil reason that Jason Pierre-Paul, veteran defensive end, he won 2. Maybe he wasn't with them when they won the Super Bowl the first time. I'm not too sure. In 2007, I don't think so either. Well, maybe that was their first round pick. I'll have to look that up.
He's been around for a while.
He's been around for a while. I know he's won at least one with them. But a guy that's producing, they trade him away, and he's going to be looking to sack his former quarterback.
That's for sure.
I've got that matchup really with San Francisco there too. It's going to be the next week after that because I think that's a game that they can actually pull off a win, just depending on how the San Francisco team, with all the hype around Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan, what they've been doing, how they can handle that, and then. I'm looking at, and then Week 4 against Chicago because I think that's also a winnable game for them, and it's 2 teams that really I think that have improved the most from what they were last year, but still it's just going to be a tough game, and I think that's actually going to be a really good game to watch Week 4.
Yeah, with the Bucs choosing these games, it's tough because they play so many good teams, so you can't really choose those games because you can't really expect much. So as I was looking at it as well, the Giants game jumped off the bat just because I thought 2 teams are pretty close matched. Just the Giants being home gave them the edge. Like I said, the Niners game, I actually gave the Bucs winning that one. I'm not 100% aboard the Jimmy Garoppolo train yet. Dude's getting paid. He's doing a lot of things. He's undefeated, but in a full season, let's see exactly what he could do. And then I just had Week 16 at Dallas just because I think that's another game that they could possibly steal at the end of the season. I'm not too high on the Cowboys. They got some good guys. Of course, they got Zeke, but not too high on Dak Prescott. So I think that'd be a good game. Dak versus Jameis Winston. I think Jameis could outperform him and maybe pull off a victory. I had Dallas winning, but I think that will be a very close game at the end of the year.
Well, all right. That's going to do it for the NFC South, and that's pretty much us praising and fluffing it up because, in the end, going back to just the overview again, you're really dealing with 3 teams that are just all playoff caliber teams and 3 teams that, if their cards fall right, could all end up in that Super Bowl game. In my opinion, I think that it's just we're talking about 3 top level teams that are really. I mean, I'm looking forward to just watching all of them.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it off the top of my head now. 10-6 with that I had the Falcons going. They actually in my head might miss the playoffs because I think, of course, I had the Vikings. And I think the Packers are going to make the playoffs this year because I think if Rodgers stays healthy the whole year, of course. So 10-6 might not cut it because if you got one division, one wild card team being either Panthers or
and
the
it's
Saints,
just
and I can't see the Packers missing the playoffs 2 years in a row.
it's just so funny with the fact that that 10-6 won't cut it in the NFC, but 10-6 might win a division
in the
AFC. It's crazy to think about, and it really is just that's the difference. And you know what? The AFC we said it before, it's dominated by 2 teams. And you know what? Jacksonville, yeah, they're getting up there, but it's been dominated by Pittsburgh and New England. But the NFC changes every year. It's someone new comes up on the top of the mountain, whether it's Carolina or Seattle or obviously last year the Eagles. Eagles were 7-19 the year previous, and they just came out and they gave it to teams bad. So it's
even
just
the Rams.
Even the Rams went from 4-12 to a playoff team and a 12-4. It's just you never really know with the NFC and someone even like the Tampa Bay. Anybody, it could be anybody. But that'll do it for Conn and the Stick. We're not gonna upload next week because of the fact that Nick will be on vacation. But we're gonna try and we'll get these divisions done hopefully just in time for. I know training camp's starting and we're starting to really get towards the football season. Obviously, I'm really excited because it's just right around the corner and we're right there. And I can finally start watching football again after these long. This off season's just been making me really excited. You know, I'm reading a lot of stuff. I'm really looking forward to it. Not only just to watch my Dolphins play, but just everyone. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the NFL and a lot of teams, and I love just watching football. So I know the same is for you. You could spend all Sunday just watching games.
From 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night, I'm just sitting there watching it. If we're lucky enough, we'll have a London game. So we can watch from 8:30 in the morning to
11 at night. That's
what
we do on Sundays. But that'll do it from Nick Smith. I'm Justin Connolly. We will see you in 2 weeks with the AFC South.
AFC South.
AFC South. All right. Thank you for listening.